Well, good morning, everyone. It's 11:14. Just trying to make sure everything works. If you're already tuned in, I'd love a message from someone. Let's see who's first to say, yes, I can hear you. We'll start in a few seconds when it goes 11:15. So this is just the sound check, as it were. And I'm waiting for a confirmation that you can hear me, and then we'll get going. The clock has just struck 11:15. Dexter is in there, and Anthony and Dexter, brilliant. Good morning. Welcome to Virtual Coffee, and happy Easter to all of you. It's so wonderful to be together apart again and to spend half an hour to chat, to see how everyone's doing, and then to talk about the service together and about the amazing resurrection account that we were thinking about today. So let's just start with some greetings, shall we? And then we get into the meat of this virtual coffee. I'm mixing my metaphors here, I'm afraid. Meat and coffee don't go together very well. Just in case you were wondering, no, I've got a different mug today. Yeah, this is good, isn't it? I see it in mirror writing. I hope you see it the right way around. It says more tea vicar ? And the answer is usually yes in my case. I don't know whether Heath and Barbara are watching or tuned into Virtual Coffee. If they are, thank you, Heath and Barbara, for this gift. I think it was when I was ordained, which is 8 years ago. So that's amazing. So lots of voices already coming up here. Let me first talk to you about some of the texts I've received and WhatsApps. On WhatsApp, several people have said how they enjoyed the service. Marcel said, wonderful service. Dom said, another lovely service, guys. We thought the virtual choir were amazing. Linda, thank you. Thank you to each and everyone involved for a wonderful service. What an Easter blessing it's been. And welcome everyone here on YouTube chat. I'm going to read out some of your comments in a second. You need to be logged in to be able to chat wherever your chat is. Logged in with your YouTube account or with your Google account. If you can't do that, you can WhatsApp or text me if you've got my mobile number, or you can email me. In fact, I need to start my email now, which I've forgotten. And you can email me, use my email address, which is rector@denhamparish.church. And then I will scan my inbox as well in case you send me an email. Also on WhatsApp, we have Victoria saying, I sat in the garden and listened to the brilliant Easter Sunday service. What a wonderful way to have this Easter Sunday worship in this beautiful weather. Well, let me tell you what's happening here on YouTube. Dexter, what a beautiful service in every way. Thank you to all those involved. So lovely to see so many. Happy Easter, Dexter and Jane. Anthony can hear us. Dexter can hear us. Chris can hear us. Sally can hear us. Kim says happy Easter to all. Clive is here. Joe Potter is here. Thank you for all such a lovely service. Love and blessings. He's risen indeed. Paul says howdy. Boram, happy Easter from Korea. Boram, this is amazing. Welcome. So glad you can join us. Wonderful. Linda, hello from Sheffield. We love streaming your services on a Sunday, and we send our love to Christoph and Ed and all at St. Mary's Church. Stay safe, everyone. Linda, great to have you with us, and so wonderful to be connected this way. Brian says, Heather and Brian have ears. Brilliant. Mike is saying, morning, happy Easter. Love, Donna, Mike, and Bump. I love it. So good to have you with us. Brilliant. Chinwendu, we can hear you. Boram again, lovely to join the virtual coffee time. Welcome, Boram again. Paul says you might as well as you've eaten all the cake. Now, he's probably responding to something I've just said and I've forgotten what I said, but I'm sure you are right, Paul. Mary and Graham are with us. Wonderful. Chinwendu says the virtual choir was wonderful. Wonderful. We'll come back to the virtual choir in a minute. Kim says, couldn't agree more, an amazing service. Thank you to everyone. So uplifting. Clive says, wonderful service. Barbara is with us. Happy Easter from Barbara and Heath, who visited St. Mary's this morning. Barbara and Heath, thank you for the mug. It's still alive and it's being used regularly. Thank you for that. Colin, happy Easter. Happy Easter. He is risen. Robert says, happy Easter to all. Robert and Eliana, happy Easter. And they say happy Easter to our family from Corsica and Colombia. I tell you, we are spreading out. Wouldn't it be nice to have a map and to put little flags on? We are in Colombia. We are in Corsica. We are in Korea. We are even in Sheffield. Amazing. Well, Brian is with us. Happy Easter. Thank you, Bryony and family. Caroline has joined us as well. And Paul says, more tea, Vicar, as you've eaten all the cake and you timed it with drinking again. I like my cake. I do like my cake, if you know me a little bit. We had a parish assistant here for the first 3 years here at St. Mary's Denham. Many of you will know him. He will do his own service this morning, so he's not going to join us, I'm sure. Francis, if anyone tells you, we've mentioned you. And he said once, apparently, I am the most food-motivated person he's ever met. So there you are. But that's enough about me. Just before we carry on to other things, a few more greetings. Mario is with us. Mario is here from the Netherlands. Another little flag on our world map. Happy Easter. Thanks for the brilliant service. Mario was part of the virtual choir. If you know her, you spotted her. Chris, curious to know how the virtual choir was edited together. Must have been quite a job. Well, let's talk about the service in a minute. And let's start with the virtual choir when we do. But lastly, a few more greetings. Liz, Charlie, and Sophie are with us. We loved it. Thank you. Brilliant to have you with us. Kathy, happy Easter all. Kim says, hi, Mario. Lovely to see you in the virtual choir. There you go. Brian, another wonderful service. Thank you. Barbara, smiling about the coffee mug, I'm sure. Liz, Charlie, and Sophie, happy Easter, everyone. And Janet says, happy Easter to all. Loved the virtual choir. So let's talk about the virtual choir. What a great thing, isn't it? What we can do with technology. So let me tell you how the virtual choir was put together. It started with our St. Mary's Church Choir practicing a piece for what was going to be our Easter celebration at St. Mary's Church, which is the piece you heard. And then, of course, we had to disband our rehearsals. So we said, what can we do? And of course, virtual choirs are all the rage now. So I produced a basic piano arrangement. And then we sang some guide tracks for the sopranos, the altos, the tenors, and the basses. And we emailed that out to our choir, to our friends from the Catholic Church, and to some friends around who have sung with us in the past. And so they were then practicing. They also had the music. Then they had to put on headphones, and that's really important, so you get a good mix in the end. So they sing into their phone, videoing themselves, while they listen to the guide track, and they sing along. But we can only hear them sing as they record onto their smartphone. They then sent back the video to me. I extracted all the sound. I then used my wonderful professional recording software called Logic, a little plug here for Apple computers, to arrange them all, to set the levels and the sound quality so the choir are really together well. And then I sent all the videos over to Anthony. Anthony, thumbs up, because Anthony offered me early this week to help with the video editing. So I said, let's collaborate. I do the sound, you do the video. And so let's do a big clap for Anthony, who's done a great job. And on that note, it's so lovely that all member ministry is coming to the fore in this time. Because just over the last week, we've had so many lovely offers of help. We've had so many contributions. This service must have been the one with the most contributions. And that's been absolutely lovely. So thank you all. The other thank you I really want to say at this time is a thank you for all the practical help, all the messages of encouragement, all the contributions you have made over the last weeks. Edda and I so appreciate you and the part you are playing in this season of our church's life. Another shout out, I'm not sure that she's watching at the moment, but if you were wondering about the chicken on our sofa, Kim, who was part of our church until she and her husband moved away, when they were clearing out before they moved, she gave us this chicken with the little chicks. So thank you, Kim. We thought we'd feature it on our sofa this morning. We've got a few more messages before we move on to other things. Where are we? Amanda is with us. Amanda, Nick, lovely, joyous service. Amanda and Nick are the Italian voices you just saw earlier. Janet loved the virtual choir and so happy to see all the faces. Amanda, lovely, joyous service. Thank you. Joe gave a clap. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony, a pleasure to get involved. Well, it was brilliant, Anthony. I love the way you arranged the choir in the way you did. Peter, Jen, Alfie, and Tamara are with us. Happy Easter to everyone. Jen provided the Filipino version of the Easter greeting. Thank you, Jen. And Clive says, think we might have got the technology fight now if another virtual choir song. I think you mean right. I know it's a fight, Clive. It's also a fight to spell. I know what it's like, especially with autocorrection. But you are going to be invited to our next virtual choir project, no doubt about it. Well, I've got a question for you, and it is related to our service. I said in my talk that I've decided to pick up one or two new things in this time of self-isolation. And one of my projects has been to read The Lord of the Rings. More than 1,000 pages. I'm about 150 pages in, so a long way to go. And I'm wondering, have you started anything since the lockdown? Anything new? Or picked up something that you started but then haven't engaged with for a long time? Are you busier than normal or maybe not so busy? I would love to hear your thoughts. While you think, I'm going to check my email and my WhatsApp to make sure I don't miss any messages. So we've got a few greetings on email, which is absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to just read some out to you. Here they are. We had a message from Caroline and Craig saying, flower from our garden for the virtual cross. Thank you, Caroline and Craig. Your first contribution. You're in there. Brilliant. Keep them coming. Keep your Easter flowers coming so we can make a wonderful virtual cross. John and Beverly have sent us a beautiful flower, tulip. Thank you so much. And Avril says, happy Easter. Stay safe and well. And she's also sent us a beautiful flower from her garden. Jill, wonderful to hear from you, Jill. What a joy to join with you both this morning. Lovely to see your faces and hear your voices. Oh, thank you, Jill. Love to you as well. Rosalind, wonderful Rosalind. I'm glad we're connected on email now. We just sorted that out last week. And she says, thank you. That was a very joyous service. It came through loud and clear. Steve has emailed and says, thank you to everyone for our lovely Easter service. Happy Easter, one and all. Steve, Laura, and Maureen. Thank you so much. Claire, what a lovely, joy-filled service. She's just watching with her husband. Claire has been part of our virtual choir. She's part of the Catholic Church here. And thank you so much for that. And there is another greeting. Happy Easter. Thank you for the broadcast every Sunday. And they have sent us another flower. That's Gillian. Brilliant. Thank you, Gillian. Beautiful flower. Rob has sent in a message. Beautiful. Thank you. Enjoyed it so much. Sheila and Rob. From Ashford. Hey, another little flag on our map. And then Sarah have said, thought the virtual choir worked really well. Thank you for your contribution to it, Sarah. So thank you all for your messages. A couple more on YouTube, and then I want to know your answers about the things you've picked up, the new things you've picked up. Mark and Patty, late. And of course, they blame it on their daughter, Ruthie. That's very naughty, Mark. You really shouldn't do that. But you're being let off because Mark and Patty are tuning in from Singapore. So lovely to have you with us. And Dom is giving us our first suggestion, what people are picking up during lockdown. So Dom and Vicky are saying we have taken up the rather unusual lockdown activity of doing a 1,000-piece jigsaw over the long weekend. Wow. And that's brilliant. Listen to this. We've sent the same jigsaw to all the households in Vicky's family, and they're having a race to the finish line. What a great idea. There you go. Over the next weeks, if you're getting bored, order the same jigsaw, send it to loved ones, and then have a little race. You need to agree when the starting pistol is going, though. Otherwise, it's very unfair, Dom and Vicky, because you, of course, had it a bit earlier than your family. But I'm sure you worked that out. Brilliant idea. Heather is saying on WhatsApp, Primroses growing on our lawn. Hope they help with the cross. Amazing, Heather. Thank you for that beautiful photo. We're coming back to our YouTube chat now, and I look forward to seeing the kinds of things you've picked up in the lockdown situation. Now, the jigsaws are winning, it seems to me, because Clive says, planting more vegetables and started a 500-piece jigsaw. You need to up your game, mate. Other people are doing a 1,000-piece, but well done. Robert says, embracing Facebook more than in the past. Robert, same here. I wasn't very much on Facebook, but at this time, it's so important to be connected through technology. Samuel, great to have you with us. All the Coopers, great Coopers. Wonderful to see you and to have you with us. Love joining you this morning, they say. Chris says, I've been furloughed from the coming week. So just thinking about what new project to do with all the time. Many possibilities. Chris, maybe you'll pick up some tips in the next few minutes. And let's not forget, this time is not only a time of jolliness and jigsaw puzzling, it's also time of worries for people in terms of their work, when they've been furloughed. Will there be a job for me when we come out the other end? And it's so important that we hold each other up through our community, through our connection, and through our prayers. Janet is saying our new puppy's getting more training, perfecting his fetch. Still a long way to go. Oh, that's amazing. I hope you've got a garden where you can train him well at this time. I think you do. Victoria saying, been baking a lot more, trying to perfect hot cross buns. Excellent. How is it going, Victoria? How have your hot cross buns for this weekend turned out? We'd love to hear. Sally says, me too. They take a while. This is probably a comment on the puppies. Could be on the hot cross buns, Sally. Well, they both take a long while. Perfecting hot cross buns and training puppies. Dexter, I'm not going to read this out, Dexter. The birds will have seen it. Yeah, there's a little conversation going on between the Browns and the Birds, who know each other well from the time when they were friends together. Now they're friends apart. And Amanda's joining in on that little sub-conversation. Anthony's saying, I'm still working at home, but trying to practice guitar more. I'm learning the solo to Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, I hope the lockdown is going to be long enough for you. Not that I want it to go on longer than necessary, but that's a project. Please share the solo with us when you've got it nailed. Pete is saying, we've been working on the garden, cleaning the pond. Yeah, it's great, isn't it, to have time actually to work on the garden. Some people are doing a deep clean in their houses. Good opportunity to do that. Chris is saying, nice idea about jigsaw race. Have you tried? And now, Chris, you are saying a word here, which is either a typo or it's Chinese. Wasgij. Oh, I got it. Ha, it took me a second. Wasgij. Did anyone get it? Wasgij is jigsaw spelled backwards. A fun take on jigsaws. Check Wasgij out. Dexter saying Jane is enjoying Zoom chats. Dexter gardening after 20 years of neglect. In brackets, the garden, not Dexter. Clive says, I'm not Clive, I'm Caroline. These messages are from Caroline. I'm cooking. Well done for the cooking and for joining in. Ian has joined us. Brilliant. Well done, Ian. Doing press-up challenge. 73 per day. One for every year of my life. I take my proverbial hat off to you, Ian. I couldn't even do my age in press-ups. Amazing. I'm not quite as old as you, but I'm catching up. Patty, Mark wants to be part of the choir. How did Heath get ahead of me? Mark, how could I have forgotten you? Can you just make sure you remind me on a little email? And if we do another virtual choir, which I'm sure we will, Anthony just said his Mac is ready for another edit. Mark will be invited to sing bass in our virtual choir. Yeah, Sally said, I love Wasgij, really fun. Excellent, we'll have to try this. Clive, I read Lord of the Rings when I was 16. It's stayed with me ever since. I was talking to someone else who said when they first read it, they couldn't stop. They were sort of reading it under their desk in school. Amazing. What a great book. Amanda saying, Nick's painting the whole house. I'm teaching online. Much more work than doing it live. It's fascinating, isn't it? How things have changed and how people have opportunities to do things online that they did in reality before, and schools have been amazing in adapting to the challenges. Ian says the choir was very moving, beautiful. And Pete says, I'm with you, Pete. I can do about 10 press-ups. Well done, Ian. Well, Pete, if you and I up our game to 15, I think that would be a good goal, wouldn't it? Well, thank you for all the messages. Just checking once more on WhatsApp, and then we turn a corner to something else. Had a message from Michelle. Thank you for a wonderful service. And Sheila says, loved it. Thank you. And on email, we've had a few more messages. Fiona says, what a lovely service. Thank you so much. Oh, brilliant. And Eileen, who is the carer in the home, is especially like the message in Filipino. Brilliant. And wonderful flowers. Fiona, so appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you. So, Easter, the Easter account, the Easter story. We've got 10 minutes. Would anyone want to comment on it? Any thoughts, any questions? This beautiful account from Matthew 28, very sparse. It's fascinating when you look at Matthew's gospel. The chapter 28 is the last chapter in the gospel, and it covers everything from Jesus rising from the dead, the disciples meeting him, and then them being commissioned with the famous Great Commission at the end to take the gospel to the ends of the world, all in one, not very long chapter. And so much is packed into those 10 verses that I decided to just go through it with you, as it were, bit by bit, so we can relive it together. Any thoughts on this resurrection account, on the Easter story, or maybe something about the resurrection that you want to underline or ask about? While you're thinking, Tim is with us. Brilliant. And Tim is saying, my brother made me read Lord of the Rings before I was allowed to watch the films. Amazing books filled with detail. Tim, that's really interesting, isn't it? Most people would say it's better to read the book first and then to see the film. Although the downside is that if you watch a film with someone who's read the book, they usually go, that's not right. Oh, that's completely different from the book, which can be a bit distracting. I've done it the other way around, sadly. I've watched the films first several times, and now I'm reading the book. And I enjoy the details being filled in, as you say, but also I'm quite impressed with largely the accuracy of the storytelling in the movies. So if you're bored over the next couple of weeks, it's well worth watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. Any thoughts about the Easter account, about the passage today, about the resurrection, and maybe what it means for us? I'll give you a couple of thoughts at the end, but first I'd love to hear more from you. Or maybe it's all done and dusted and you live in the joy of resurrection and you've never had any questions about it. Here's the first question from Patty. Welcome, Patty, from Singapore. Should we be surprised that the disciples were surprised at the resurrection? Patty, that is a great question. It really is. And that's why I underlined the disciples didn't expect Jesus to rise. And as all of us have experienced, to have read the Gospels in one swoop, Jesus couldn't have been clearer. He has announced to his disciples that he has to die, that it is part of his Father's plans, but that he will rise again. One of the passages that we hear very often at funerals, of course, is John 14, where Jesus says, I am going to prepare a place for you so that you will be where I am. You know the way. And then Thomas says, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus says the beautiful sentence, Thomas, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So there are so many indications that Jesus tried to prepare his disciples, but they didn't get it. I think two things to say, Patty, about this, and there's many more. One is the idea of a bodily resurrection in a person in the here and now was not in the bloodstream of any philosophy or religion. It's something radically new. When people say, oh, well, other religions have that. Tom Wright, N.T. Wright, the eminent theologian, has written various books about it and said it just wasn't in the thought repertoire of people at the time. It's something radically new, that someone who's lived a life in this world and died would come back to life, never to die again. It's a groundbreaking idea, which is at the center of the Christian hope. So we can let them off to a degree. The other thing is, Patty, that quite frankly, many of the disciples were hoping for a different kingdom, not a kingdom that comes in humility and weakness and suffering, but a kingdom that comes in triumph and glamour. They were hoping to be part of Jesus's government when he sets up his rule in this earth, in our time. And so it took them a long time, and that's why it's really interesting when we read the resurrection accounts for the pieces to fall into place. I'm sure over the next weeks we'll reflect on the Emmaus disciple story. And Jesus opens scriptures to them, and suddenly they make the connections. So I think we shouldn't be too hard on them, but I think it's also wonderful that the disciples didn't get everything. In fact, they got lots of things wrong. And this is us, isn't it? The followers of Jesus. We follow him as best as we can, but we don't have all the answers, and we get things wrong, and we have doubts and fears and questions. But deeper than that is our trust in the risen Lord. Pete says, I explained to Alpha why we have Friday to Monday off. He thought it was about the Easter eggs. Pete, that's such an important statement, isn't it? Our culture has obviously moved to Easter eggs without the deeper meaning of new life through Jesus in it. And that's why I said in my talk, can we please help our families, our friends, our neighbors to make the connections, to discover the beautiful story that is behind our Easter celebration, and then pray that they will discover the risen Jesus for themselves. Victoria says, I often wonder how I would have reacted if I was Mary and saw the tomb empty. Rejoicing or disbelief? And I think those two words surely express the reality of the first people who saw the empty tomb before they met the risen Lord Jesus. It's said in the Matthew account, if you remember, they saw the angel, they saw the empty tomb, they were told to tell the disciples, and they then ran to tell the disciples, full of fear and great joy. They haven't quite got their head around it yet, but there is hope stirring in them. Clive says, it resonates so much. We are metaphorically in the tomb. When we rise again, we have a message to proclaim, loud, clear, and with faith. We have, Clive. We absolutely do. And I don't know whether you mean metaphorically in the tomb in our self-isolation or until we rise again with Jesus. What I would say is we don't wait till we get out of the tomb to proclaim this message with faith and joy. And I'm not sure that you meant that, but just to clarify that. Yes, we are the walking wounded. Yes, we have many questions still. Yes, we don't understand everything about our faith or the Bible. But those who have met the risen Lord Jesus, they have a message to proclaim now, in all humility, but with great confidence and joy. Anthony says, hearing about the disciples in self-isolation made me want to read Acts again. Anthony, thank you, because you've given me the perfect line. We've only got 2 minutes to give you another plug for Spring Harvest. Spring Harvest this year is based on the amazing story of the book of Acts. There will be Bible teaching in the mornings around 11, I think. Please download the program underneath the original service video. There will be great celebrations together. There will be special children's program and family times. It's such a smorgasbord. What I would suggest is download the program, look at your schedule for next week. Many of us will be off or on furlough or have time at home, and then choose some of these things and feed your faith. I said in my email to you last night that, I just need to find the quote so I don't misquote it, that by feeding our faith, we starve our fears. By feeding our faith, we starve our fears. I didn't make up that quote, I borrowed it, but it's such an important one. So please engage with Spring Harvest. All about the book of Acts. Brilliant. Janet says, it took me a long time to accept the resurrection. Reading the book Roll Away the Stone or something like that changed my mind and heart. Thank you, Janet. And this is such a good contribution for those of us who are still struggling, whether this is just a fairy tale. Eminent people, scientists, investigative journalists, and others went on this journey of discovery. And many of them came out the other end saying, the best explanation for what is told to us and what happened in world history after that is, it is true. Jesus rose in physical form from the dead. And Colin quotes a Bible verse, which is so important and links the resurrection with the book of Acts. He quotes the verse, the same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in us. St. Paul says that in one of his letters, I think. Isn't that amazing? The power that raised Jesus from the dead again is the power of the Holy Spirit living in those who follow Jesus. And that's what we see unfurled in the book of Acts. It is an action-packed book. Some people have said it should actually not have been called the Acts of the Apostles, but the Acts of the Holy Spirit. And yes, Janet says, love that Jesus first appeared to women. And that's a good moment just to summarize. I've, over the last couple of days, read part of a book by Eugene Peterson. Eugene Peterson is a person I highly respect. He died last year, I think. And his book about the resurrection, he says this. Resurrection does not have to do exclusively with what happens after we are buried or cremated. It does have to do with that, but first of all, it has to do with the way we live right now. But as Karl Barth, quoting Nietzsche, pithily reminds us, only where graves are is there resurrection. We practice our death by giving up our will to live on our own terms. Only in that relinquishment are we able to practice resurrection. That's why we renewed our baptism vows today, to relinquish everything to Jesus and then to receive again resurrection joy. Thank you. It's been so wonderful to chat for half an hour. Thank you for all your contributions. For the time being, we'll continue this. Bring us your contributions. Take a short video of a little testimony, a story you have, maybe of a favorite Bible verse. You know, you can help shape our worship and our times together as we go forward. Don't forget, we are setting up online Bible reading groups. They're called Bible reading groups. You don't need to have a theology degree. We read it together. We share our thoughts. And because it's the passage we're going to preach on the Sunday, we come prepared. And then at Virtual Coffee, we can talk about it and raise some of the questions that have emerged for us. We've come to the end of our time. I'm just going to do a final sweep to make sure that I've had all the messages. Lovely to hear from Heath. Great service. Well done. So he says, my bet is that the chicken on the back of the sofa was Edda's idea. Heath, I'm sure it was. Most of the best ideas are Edda's ideas. They really are. On email, there's nothing new on email. And finally, here on WhatsApp, no, on YouTube. I'm getting confused. Men can't multitask. Finally, here on YouTube, a few more final greetings. Johnny says, well put. Love a bit of Karl Barth. Thank you, Johnny. Amanda, thanks so much for the chat. It's a wonderful way to connect. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay connected, and stay hopeful with Easter joy. See you again next week. Bye, everyone.